All right, well, welcome back to the Unmasked Relationship Factor Series. Tom and I are picking back up where we sort of got cut off from the segment that we were doing, but we want to resume having this conversation. In the last segment, we were discussing primarily things that can empower women to be a little bit more solid in relationships, but then we also shifted to talking about the different dynamics in terms of males as well. So we talked about quite a bit. So just to try to remember a little bit of the recap, Tom, I know you brought up the subject in terms of men not being mind readers. And so we covered that, and then vice versa. And so a few of the other things that we talked about, so we can pick back up.
Yeah, we talked about reciprocity and being able to reciprocate what you ask for. And the other thing, the thing that we left off on is, change is coming too late, and people wanting to get on board when the other one is already turned the page.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we definitely want to pick up and keep that conversation moving. I am going to encourage others, if you have not heard the part 1 of this particular segment, please go back and listen to that so you can benefit greatly from what we're going to be discussing moving forward. All right. So, all right, Tom. So yeah, so we both expressed, at least I really did, in terms of that was one of the areas within relationship dynamics, no matter what type of relationship it is people being on their own time. But I think where we left off, I was talking about in terms of sometimes when people are doing what they're doing a little bit too late, that's still a very much controlling dynamics as well. The one thing we know is that tigers can't just change their stripes. And so I know some people are probably going to disagree and say, well, no, people can change their mind and people really can change. Yeah, I'm not saying that they can't, but see, sometimes the reason why people change is very important, because it doesn't really represent true change. Sometimes it represents, let me change enough to get what I think I want and to get, this person thinking I'm on board with them, or it's the reason why they're doing what they're doing. And so sometimes people say, well, does that really matter? At least they're making the change. Yes, it does matter.
Because it matters a whole lot.
Absolutely. Because it doesn't mean that it's going to be something that's long lasting. So people can change for, a moment. And just because you change activity briefly, that's like putting on a new shirt, but putting on a new shirt doesn't make a new person. It's just new attire. And but that attire, they may change for a minute, but typically they're going to go back to acting and behaving the way that they are. You said something, really important, when the other person has already turned the other page. And so then when the other person's turned the other page, the other person can't be trying to get them to still see things a certain way. It's like, no, you had your opportunity to see it like that, and you've built up some massive momentum. So it goes back to what I was saying previously in terms of, if someone is overweight, and even though they've been being encouraged and told it's for the betterment in terms that you do this health-wise, and just it changes everything. And if they stalled around on it and then say, you know what, now I'm going to do it. Yes, that's great that they're starting to do it. But yeah, keep in mind that weight is not just going to come off tomorrow. It's not. So basically, change does not happen overnight like that. And even though maybe some people have had some things to think about, to stew in for a while and say, you know what, maybe I haven't been supportive, and now I really need to get on board and do this. But again, just because you change your mind, and it may seem like, oh, well, that's the right thing to do. It may seem like, well, good, at least they got it together and they're coming around. Oh, that drives me crazy sometimes. But yeah, but that doesn't always work. Well, again, I was talking about a YouTube short that I did. Well, actually, it wasn't a short. I made a short off of a longer video. two videos actually that I did, is that sometimes it is too late. Being on your own time doesn't always cut it, right, Tom Tom?
No, and it's just like you talked about when people try to make changes with their health, like losing weight when it's too late, when they already got the health problems, and when
Right.
they're already too deep in it.
Right. And that doesn't mean that they shouldn't still try or whatever. But guess what? It doesn't change the fact of the things that have already occurred. But it also doesn't mean that people who were around, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a personal trainer, whether they don't have to stick around to wait for that person to make the change. It's like, okay, I was there in your life for a certain period of time to help you do X, Y, and Z. You didn't choose to do it during that season when I was available for this, when that was my thing to do. Now take what you've learned from me and then move on. Or guess what? Maybe there'll be somebody else, another doctor, a physician or so, that can do that. You see, sometimes people think, well, that's not right. That, you should never discourage anybody from, moving slow or making changes. And see, this is the thing. See, some of the society types of conditionings have really messed people up and really enables people to really drag their feet. I wanted to say something else, but but the feet would just be inferred for the moment. Okay. Yeah, it encourages people in the sense to, take things for granted, sit around and be like, well, it's never too late to do X, Y, and Z. But again, sometimes it is too late. And sometimes it's too late to get certain results that could have been gotten at a certain point. So let me just throw this out here. Just like someone who gets their college degree at, a later age, let's say 90 or so like that. And I applaud that. I think it's tremendous. But some people look around and say, man, but if I actually could have done this sooner, I could have maybe benefited more people. At this age, yes, I'm being an inspiration to people that it is never too late to go for it and to get. And then there are sometimes, let me just say this so that you don't have people who, start going down a road that I'm not really trying to go down. So let me just clarify this. I'm not talking about situations where people actually, they literally couldn't do better until that time. All right. That's not situations I'm talking about. I'm speaking to which people who have had opportunities after opportunities to do it. And yes, could it have been done sooner? Absolutely. I'm talking about cases like that. So, and again, relationship dynamics. Sometimes in relationships, it is too late. You think about some of the people who've gotten divorced but they're better friends or whatever after they've gotten divorced, right? But sometimes it's because hard wake-up calls or things happened. Yeah. So so Tom, what's your thoughts about, what's your thoughts on that? Can be interesting, these whole relationship dynamics and situations. But it's just well, I don't know if you can hear me or not, Tom, or so. It looked like you might have went out for a moment.
I did go out.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we got some little technical stuff going on here today, but we're gonna keep it moving because these are important subjects that need to be talked about, and we're not gonna let anything get in the way of these important empowerment moments coming forth. So you want to piggyback off of anything I just mentioned, or what's your take on that, or anything else you want to bring up? So it's interesting. So we are having technical issues today for whatever reason, but again, like I said, we are going to keep this segment. We're going to keep this segment moving because sometimes when you have important topics like this, sometimes some disruption wants to come in, so things like this don't move forward, but they are going to move forward regardless. All right, Tom, are you back with me?
I was just gonna co-sign everything you said. It was spot on. All I got to say is don't let time and and want to operate in your own time, keep you from things that you could have benefited from, and block blessings that you could have had otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You said the key thing is the block blessings and things that you could have benefited from, and others too. And see, that's the thing that most people don't think about when they're only thinking about themselves within relationships. Thinking about, well, I'm getting it on my own time, and then you should be happy that I've come around to this. Or maybe I didn't come around to it before because, things that you was doing and I mean, it could get interesting, people can see it from one-sided, kind of a one-sided view. Now I'm going to play the devil's advocate for just a moment, just in terms of something that you were talking about. I know that you'll come back strong at this for sure. I think it's going to be real helpful for people. So you were talking about the relocation, aspect, and I certainly know what those dynamics look like, for sure, as it relates to other people not being on board. So, someone could say, well, if it's a marriage and it's not agreed upon by both parties, we're talking about moving, and another person's still making plans to move, even though there hasn't been an agreement in terms of, the spouse or just however, well, isn't it wrong for the other person to be trying to make moves in that direction? And in that kind of them forcing their will in a sense, or just saying, hey, well, you don't want to move, but I'm going to move anyway, and basically what's that mean for the relationship or whatever, whatnot. What do you have for that? Because someone will somebody come back with that. They will. So what do you have for that?
Right. Well, everybody's situation is different. But what if the person that's wanting to move got?
Okay. So anyway, I will, continue this. Okay, so we're back. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we're definitely having some internet challenges or so, weather related things. So yeah, sometime you with me?
But the answer, but to answer your question, what if the person that's wanting to move has got a bunch of access to a bunch of once in a lifetime opportunities, or opportunities that help them, better, take care of the spouse.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
And even elevate them with the things they have going on.
Yeah, but then the other person's trying to hold the situation back. You're breaking up a little bit, so I'm kind of jumping in.
Right.
Yeah, jumping in here. But the other person, they're kind of holding the situation back, either because they're scared of their own potential being reached, or just trying to be in control, not wanting to leave familiarity, or not wanting the other person to succeed. See that this gets deep. Say it again.
Because you can't outplace and be ready for something different.
You better say that. Can you repeat that? Because it broke up. I could hear you, but I'm not sure whether it came through. I'm not sure whether it came through for the listeners.
Yeah, you can't outgrow a place. It can serve. You don't have to stay somewhere, your whole life.
Oh yeah, you can outgrow a place, right?
A place can serve its purpose, and you can't move on.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly. And, even in the relationship dynamics. And again, I know there'll be some who say, well, that's not what the Bible says in terms, and I always say to this, keep in mind that I'm an ordained minister. I have several ministries and graduated from 2 Bible colleges. And I will say, I do not agree in terms of that bound theology, in terms of people have to stay in relationships that are to the biggest detriment. Sometimes God is actually calling people to move away from certain types of relationships, regardless to what religion tries to stronghold people, with that philosophy that there are always, if you want to say, exceptions to the rules. And even as Ecclesiastes says, but there's a time and place for everything. And sometimes there's a time and a season for people to actually not be with certain people. And certain vows have to be kind of severed at that point. So yes, I said it. So anyway, Tom, what you got? Okay, I think you might have paused. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's all facts. I mean, no, I'm not about to stay in a situation and that's a detriment to my mental health and even physical health, just to say I kept a family intact.
Exactly. Right. When you're not intact, and so anything that breaks down
and pass up golden opportunities and to stay in the same place.
Oh,
these opportunities won't just keep showing up like that.
Oh, no, they won't. And then also too, for the sake of someone to come around and then say, oh, now I see the big picture. Now we can do this. Well, no, then it wasn't about God, or it wasn't about any of this. If God was leading the other person to do this, and just because you were in resistance, now that you come around and you get on board, now we can roll with this. It's like, no, sometimes you do some things that are very damaging. You know how they say, don't burn the bridge? Some people don't understand, even within relationships, they've torched the relationship bridge. And it's almost like a Red Sea parting in a sense. And that water has closed up and you simply can't walk through on dry ground here. And you can't go back to where you were because the water's there. And people don't understand that sometimes they create this distance and separation that is sometimes impossible to actually repair. So now I know people will come in and say, well, then that's where the Lord steps in. Yeah, but sometimes the Lord stepped in to part that water so the other person could go across and close that over so the other person can't get across too. I said it. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, and I back you up on that.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, I'm glad that you agree with that, because that actually is very sound, wisdom in terms of, go ahead.
It's to believe in other nonsense.
Yeah, people have to learn. Go ahead.
Yeah, until I started learning a lot of stuff that I was just starting to have to rethink everything I was involved.
Oh yeah, rethinking everything. Yeah, Tom, you kind of breaking up here. You kind of freezing up on us. But I want to keep this going here. I know we'll have to close this segment out soon, but yeah, we've been touching on some very important topics, of course, through this whole series. But today we really have, and we know that we are definitely coming up on something for sure, just for the simple fact of, kind of not the disconnections, but the different things that are happening. And of course, there'll be some say, well, that's because you all probably don't need to be having that conversation. Oh, yes, we do. And we will continue to have it no matter what the dynamics are, because we know that there are some people who really need to, to hear this, and to also understand that we're in an era where great changes are being made, and people have prepared themselves for these shifts. And so sometimes, I'm not being funny, sometimes you have those lot wives, and lot wives can also mean in the male factor too, meaning sometimes it's time to move forward, but sometimes people have been looking back and wanting to stay in the same place too long, that when they actually start to move forward, there's something about them that will still be looking back, and they'll become a pillar of salt. No one has time to wait on that. So that's why sometimes, doggone it, it is too late. I said it. Go ahead, Tom Tom.
No, you keep on, keep preaching.
Oh, not to feed my addiction here. But
Oh yeah, I was enjoying listening to this.
oh,
This,
really?
yeah, this a preach. Come
I
on.
really preach. Yeah, but it's the truth. Is that people can say, okay, I'm ready to move forward. Well, Lot's wife was ready to move forward, so to speak, too. But as she was moving forward, because she had not really prepared herself a certain way, she still resonated with what was. So when she looked back, even in moving forward, because see, she wasn't really fully real with this thing. Otherwise, she would never have glimpsed back. Who would glimpse back at something that was not for their highest and best good? Normally, when an opportunity opens up, people are like a bat out of hell getting out of there, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So you wouldn't even look back. You wouldn't even want to. You're like, if I'm gonna reflect back, maybe when I'm already on the other side, like, whoo, I got over, right? And glad I'm not there anymore. But see, she wasn't even out the driveway good and looking back. And so that's the same thing with certain people when they start talking about they're ready to move forward. Yeah, you're ready to move forward. Why? Why was Lot's wife ready to move forward? Because the stuff that was happening. But then even as the stuff was happening, she's still looking back, right? So that's the thing. But she was somebody who was actually comfortable where she was. So you got to be really mindful about that, whether it's spouses, whether it's people you're dating, people you're in, certain relationships with, even friendships or whatever. When you are ready to cross over and it's the time to go and to move and and you've been doing the preparation, those people who are trying to pack their bags at the last minute, and say, oh, I got it together now, I'm changing. You watch. They're changing because there's a fear. They're moving forward because there's a fear of something. But just as soon as they think the coast is clear, wait for it. They'll be back in that same type of activity. But guess what? They'll be back in that same activity before they can even get out the door. They may pretend that they're ready to move forward and they want to do X, Y, and Z. They may be performing and doing all those different things, but rest assured you, there's something about certain people, the reason why they're doing what they're doing, but give them an opportunity, they will slip right back into, and I shouldn't even say slip right back, because honestly, no change has really been made. It's just a facade and a masquerade in a sense, so that it can either continue to hold the other person back or just, well, yeah, pull me along. Yeah, but nobody wants dead weight, because now if I got to help recondition you and your mind and all this to get you prepared for things that you could have been prepared for years, it's a mismatch. Now I know some people are going to disagree with that. I'm just going to say you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Because sometimes the truth has to be told, because I just don't believe that it's being told enough. This is where we're unmasking these different dynamics, these different things.
You're gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn today, exactly. And this is where people get to look and see how paying attention or listening to things or allowing themselves to be conditioned by society type of setups, which is designed to set you up, in a sense, to be continuously in this loop, right? So whether it's certain religious structures or different things designed to keep a person in check while the other person is going unchecked and really running the show, when it's not going to be for the highest and best good. So yeah, I said it. Yeah, there are some Lot's wives and Lot's, vice versa. It's not just pertaining to women. I'm just talking about really a breed of individual that people can pretend, yeah, they're ready to move forward because they're afraid of losing you or they're afraid of whatever. But you wait for it. That they'll be looking back, and then they'll be turned into a pillar of salt. And then if you're still invested there, that's going to hold you up.
Yep.
It's interesting. So yeah. So wow, we have covered some stuff today. Wow, we have, like I said, I want to speak quickly though. There's something coming up around connections, because anytime sometimes internet and different things start cutting out and different connection factors, is a call to connection, is a call to establishing a deeper connection. And three areas that you really need to establish this deep connection with is, first, the connection with yourself, and the connection with source or God, however you want to term that or label that, and then the connection with others. And so I know that we've been taught a lot of times that we need to have the connection with God, ourselves, and then with others. But the reason why the connection with you is going to be more important to establish is because a lot of times people have a good connection or sort of relationship with God, so to speak, but their relationship with themselves lacks the commitment. And I've shared this about my own testimony in other, trainings and teachings that I've done, where I remember one time God was saying to me, well, our relationship is fine, but your relationship with yourself sucks, basically. And so you can't really have a solid relationship with God if you don't have a relationship with yourself enough to receive the blessings and benefits of that relationship. And then guess how that plays out in your other relationships? Yeah, it plays out in a very drastic way that's not for the highest and best good. A lot of times, because of how people feel about themselves, is why they have relationship problems with other people. And also too, why they can't even have a connection to God to hear. And I'm going to say this, especially spouses or different people who, God has already told someone else to do this and make plans, and the other person's been in resistance. Well, why are they in resistance? They don't have the connection that they need. Why is that? And so sometimes that's the lesson too, is don't be delaying on things that God has ordained, trying to conform it to what you believe should be, because you can miss out. God opens doors, but also closes doors too.
And for the super religious folks, that would be considered delayed obedience, which is disobedience.
Exactly. Delayed obedience, right, is disobedience. But of course, then some will say, well, yeah, but God is forgiving and loving, and then, but they came around. So, you be happy that they came around. Well, yeah, that's fine. Well, hold on. I'll go with that for a moment. That's fine. But just because they came around doesn't mean that that same opportunity that was there before is going to be the same. That doesn't commit other people to still be in that same place just because another person comes around and God is all loving and forgiving. So there are some conditions here. There are definitely things that you might have blew that up, but maybe there's another opportunity for you, but it may not be with that same individual or the same scenario. We have to be able to understand that, because people have to stop taking life for granted, stop taking people for granted, stop taking covenant relationships for granted. Sometimes you do have to pay a price when you are not in alignment and you operate on your own time instead of divine timing. There's a reason why is divine timing, divine will. However, is that this is not about you being manipulative and controlling even of the things that God has ordained. I'm telling you, the gloves can really come off. I'm actually still being kind of light here. But this is to empower individuals. And ultimately, Tom, as you know, we like to create these scenarios or sacred spaces where people can really empower themselves. So we're not necessarily telling people what to do, but sometimes you do have to put things out there to get people to think, so that they can go and make informed decisions for themselves. But also it doesn't hurt to shine the flashlight on things to say, look, this is really not how things work. And if you think things work this way, you might want to make some adjustments, because it may seem like it's serving you, but it's not serving the whole for the win-win. When you're in relationships, It's different when you're just with yourself, but when you're in relationships, you have to take certain things into account. You agree, Tom Tom?
Oh yeah.
Well, we only got a few minutes left in this segment. Is there anything else that you want to touch on? Because I know you said you were going to follow my lead, so to speak, but you understand sometimes that could be a dangerous thing too, because I can I can start going on and on.
But see, I don't get tired of hearing you preaching, especially when it's facts and you giving us
Aw.
golden wisdom. So I don't have anything to add. I think we pretty much covered it. But yeah, a lot of times I'm just listening because I want to see where you're taking this, and
Uh-oh.
then I add something.
Then you add something, but you come with it though. That's the thing about it, is that you know how to bring the noise. One thing that you've been so great at over the years, and then things that have been a part of your branding too, is about blowing the whistle. And so you certainly are someone who can blow the whistle as it relates to so many different areas, but you definitely in this series have been blowing the whistle on certain relationship dynamics. And that's been the goal, to really unmask and to be candid in some ways, but also to be a catalyst in terms of next level solutions and resolve that others can really benefit from. We all have to look at different sides of ourselves that maybe we're blind to, and we need to become more aware and awake, so that certain shifts can happen, but also not letting other people off the hook who will continue to kind of throw it back at you, to say, this is what you need to be doing and this is how you need to be. And that's true. Everybody needs to be working on themselves, but the person who's not working on themselves at all, really does not have the grounds. And typically those are the individuals who come back around a day late and a damn dollar too short.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it is what it is, right? They come
Yeah.
they come back around. Well, hey, I'm here now. I'm on board now.
No, don't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't always work that way. And sometimes you have to allow that to be, because when we settle and we let things slide, see, those are two dangerous S's, right?
Yeah.
Settling and sliding. Those are the things. When you let things slide, you're going to have the biggest regrets. And I'm sorry, certain things do not merit second chances. I'm cool with having an unpopular opinion or unpopular way of I guess expressing, so to speak. But life teaches us some things. Sometimes you can give people second chances, and that second chance is only to really do more damage. And forgiveness always is there. But forgiveness does not mean that people have to continue to repeat certain things with certain people, especially when it's become chronic. And one thing I know about within certain relationships, again, when certain people try to get it together a little bit too late, their reasoning for getting it together typically is not going to be beneficial. Again, it's just doing something for the moment because desperate to keep or to hold on to things, but ultimately person's still not really making change that needs to be made. And even if they are, sometimes they've made the change too late, but guess what? Their change dynamics can benefit them still, and possibly benefit them with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, rough around the edges today. I guess instead of unmasked, it should have been uncut.
Yeah, we need these kind of conversations. They got to be had.
No, they really do. They really do have to be had. And again, as strong as they can be or seem, they really are necessary. So, let's end on maybe a more less than cutthroat note. Oh, we'll see how that goes. Because this has been a pretty strong conversation today. So before I give any closing words or so, Tom, you have anything else you want to empower us with? Anything you want to close us out with? What's, one piece of advice or so that you would, or empowerment instead of advice, what's some closing empowerment you would like to send us off with?
All I gotta say is communication is key. Watch your words, pay attention to your delivery, and don't wait till it's too late to make certain changes.
That's a boss recap for sure. And that's great. That's the best call to action, really for this particular segment for sure. Thank you, Tom, of course. I always, enjoy doing these segments with you and just the work that we do together on so many different levels, but especially this work that we've been doing recently to really help others really take their relationship dynamics to the next level. So I can't express my appreciation enough for you. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right. So in closing, I just want to co-sign, of course, with everything Tom brought forth in terms of what the call to action is, the things that you really need to take into strong consideration. All right. We all have to examine and evaluate ourselves. And there are always going to be things that we're going to continuously have to unmask as it relates to ourselves and our relationship dynamics. The most important thing is that you need to be real and to be honest and to really take inventory or take stock, so to speak, of who you are, knowing who you desire to be, but also doing what it takes in order to actually be that person. But considering others as you are going along and just making the necessary steps to be the best version of yourself. All right, so we're going to close this segment out. Here's to unmasking your relationship dynamics and empowering you to take things continuously to the next level. And we look forward to being back with you soon to empower you and inspire you even more as you strengthen your relationship with yourself, source, and others. Be blessed.